My name is Ethan. I'm 37 years old, and I live or lived, I guess, in a modest house in the Bayside area along the North Carolina coast. It's the kind of place where life moves slow and steady. The salty breeze rolls in through cracked windows, and your neighbors know your dog's name better than they know yours. Chloe and I had carved out a life there. Quiet, unremarkable, dependable. A life built on routines. Morning coffees on the back porch, grocery runs every Saturday morning, reruns of Frasier before bed. Maybe that sounds boring to some people, but it worked for us. Or at least I thought it did. That March morning started like any other. Overcast sky, gulls circling overhead, the kind of coastal chill that seeps into your skin before you realize it. The bed was already cold when I woke up. Chloe had left early. Nothing strange about that. She sometimes had morning meetings or wanted to beat traffic to Wilmington. Normally, she'd leave a note or a little joke on a sticky note by the coffee maker. Don't forget to pick up more oat milk, you hippie. Or I stole the last protein bar. Survival of the fittest. Cute stuff. Stuff that reminded me we were still in sync. But that morning, nothing. No note. No kiss on the cheek. Just a single message on my phone. Timestamped 6:12 a.m. Dinner with clients. Don't wait up. No love you. No emoji. Just flat and utilitarian. Like it came from a stranger who owed me nothing. I remember staring at the screen longer than I should have, trying to convince myself it didn't mean anything. People have off days. Maybe she was just stressed. Maybe she typed it while driving. But the silence in the house suddenly felt louder than usual. Almost like it was trying to tell me something. I went about my morning like normal. Or tried to. I made my usual pot of coffee. But it tasted bitter. Burnt even. The toast stuck in the toaster and charred at the edges. The dog, Hazel, our golden retriever, kept pacing near the front door, like she expected Chloe to come bursting in any second with her gym bag slung over one shoulder and some sarcastic remark about how I always leave the shoes pointed the wrong way. But she didn't. At around 9:30 a.m., I took my car into Rollins Tire and Auto to get the rear passenger tire looked at. It had been low for a week, and I finally had time. The lobby smelled like burnt rubber and stale popcorn, and the morning show on the TV was too loud, but I didn't mind it. I figured I'd be in and out. While I waited, someone called out my name. Ethan? I turned around and saw a familiar face, Drew Caldwell. We'd gone to high school together. He had been on the wrestling team. I was the guy who wrote articles about the matches for the school paper. We weren't exactly best friends, but we'd shared a few too many beers behind the gym senior year, so I figured that counted for something. We got to talking. Small talk at first. How's work? Still doing consulting? How's the house out in Bayside? You and Chloe still living out that way? He was easy to talk to. Relaxed, friendly in that way only guys from small towns can be. I asked about his family, his new boat, and he mentioned he'd just gotten back into town after a few months working down near Savannah. Then he said something that stopped me cold. You know, I saw Chloe yesterday. I blinked. Yeah, out by Valley Crest Inn. Around sunset. I was grabbing dinner with my cousin. I thought I recognized her. Hard to miss, you know? She always had that sharp look. Looked like she was in the middle of something. So I didn't say hi. I tried to keep my face neutral. Ha, that's funny. She told me she had dinner downtown. He shrugged, completely unaware that he'd just knocked the wind out of me. Maybe I'm misremembering. Could have been someone else. Just thought I'd mention it. We talked a little more, and I smiled, nodded, joked. But my brain had gone somewhere else entirely. Valley Crest Inn wasn't downtown. Not even close. It was a good 15-minute drive from the restaurant she said she was going to. It wasn't exactly some sketchy roadside motel either. It was sleek, modern, with a fireplace in the lobby and complimentary wine in the evenings. Classy but not flashy. The kind of place Chloe would love. As I drove home, the steering wheel felt hot under my hands even though the car's heater was off. My thoughts twisted into uncomfortable shapes. Why lie about something so small? If it was a business dinner, why not just say Valley Crest? Why the need to alter the location? It's funny how the mind works when something doesn't line up. You start by giving benefit of the doubt. Maybe she had dinner at the hotel restaurant. Maybe plans changed. But the more I tried to rationalize it, the more it felt like trying to hold sand in my hands, slipping piece by piece. When I pulled into the driveway, Hazel greeted me at the door like she always did. Tail wagging, tongue out, blissfully unaware that her world might be cracking just as much as mine was. I gave her a pat, told her she was a good girl, and stared at the front door for a full minute before walking inside. The house looked normal, but now everything inside felt different. Her mug in the sink, the throw blanket she always hogged on the couch, the faint scent of her perfume near the closet, it all felt suspicious. Or maybe I was the one who was changing. Maybe I was the problem. But here's the thing. I've always believed trust isn't just something you give once and forget about. It's something you renew. Like a subscription. Day after day. Word by word. Action by action. And that morning, Chloe missed her renewal. They say hindsight is 20/20, and I guess that's true, but what they don't say is how much it hurts when everything suddenly starts to make sense. That afternoon after I spoke with Drew, I sat in the garage for a long time, just staring at the steering wheel, letting pieces of memory rearrange themselves in my head. What once seemed harmless, just little quirks or growing pains, now had a different shape. A darker one. It started small. Chloe used to call me on her way home from work. Always. She'd hit Bluetooth before pulling out of the parking lot and ramble about the dumbest stuff: traffic, someone's weird lunch smell, a squirrel that startled her near the elevator. I used to laugh at how easily she got sidetracked mid-story. But about a month ago, those calls stopped. I asked her once jokingly, "Did you forget how to use a phone?" She laughed it off and said she'd been tired lately. That traffic had her frazzled. That she just needed quiet on the drive home. I bought it. Of course I did. You don't want to think the worst of someone you love. But it wasn't just the calls. She started putting her phone on silent all the time. I'd glance over during dinner and it would be face down, screen off, like it had something to hide. And if it buzzed, she'd glance at it and slide it under her thigh like she didn't even want to be tempted. I remember one evening, we were sitting on the couch watching something forgettable on Netflix. Her phone lit up and she casually reached for it, turned the screen just enough away from me, and tapped quickly. I caught a glimpse of the name C on the lock screen, just that letter. I asked, "Who's C?" She looked up like a deer in headlights and said, "Client. Cole." Then changed the subject to some new restaurant opening downtown. I didn't press. I should've. But I didn't want to be that guy, the paranoid one, the clingy husband who checks his wife's texts like a TSA agent going through luggage. We used to share memes every morning. Dumb ones. Sloths and hoodies. Sassy cats. Stuff like that. I'd text her something just after waking up and she'd always fire something back within minutes. That rhythm, that small but an asterisk mate connection, disappeared somewhere along the way. I can't even remember when it stopped, just that I noticed one day her replies were hours late. Then not at all. Then there were the weekends. Chloe used to sleep in on Saturdays. We'd make breakfast together, argue about how much cinnamon belongs in French toast, and just be us. But lately she started saying she was going to yoga. Only thing is, she never took her mat. Or her water bottle. Or wore anything remotely like workout gear. She'd leave in jeans and boots, then come back 2, sometimes 3 hours later, hair damp, skin glowing like she'd just stepped out of a spa. I joked once, some pretty intense yoga happening in full makeup. She rolled her eyes, muttered something about hot yoga being trendy now, and disappeared upstairs. I tried not to think much of it. Told myself I was overanalyzing. That relationships evolve. That we were just in a phase. But now that one offhand comment from Drew had cracked the surface, all these little things weren't just quirks. They were clues. Like breadcrumbs left in plain sight. I had just been too trusting or too afraid to follow them. One evening I remember coming home early from a job site. I had wrapped up a consultation earlier than expected and figured I'd surprise her. Her car was in the driveway, which felt like a small victory since she'd been working late so often. I walked in as quietly as I could, trying to catch her off guard. Maybe she'd be dancing around to music or watching some guilty pleasure reality show. But instead, I found her in the kitchen, hunched over her phone, eyebrows furrowed, thumb moving fast. When she noticed me, she flinched, literally jumped. Then she smiled, that tight smile people wear when they're caught doing something they shouldn't be doing. "You scared me," she said, quickly locking the phone and slipping it into her pocket. I raised an eyebrow. "Everything okay?" She nodded too fast. "Yeah, just dealing with a client's deadline." Her voice was off. Too chipper, too rehearsed. That was the moment I noticed she had started calling everyone a client. No names, no real details. Just vague placeholders. Client meeting, client dinner, client drama. The word started to feel like a catch-all cover story. A smokescreen. Then came the food thing. Chloe always used to love my cooking. She used to brag about it to friends, said I made the best lemon garlic chicken this side of the coast. But suddenly she wasn't hungry anymore. She'd come home, poke at her plate, then say, I had a big lunch or my stomach's been off lately. She said it so often I started feeling self-conscious. Was my cooking worse? Had she gone vegetarian and just not told me? But the weirdest moment, the one that stuck with me even before everything else started unraveling, was the night I saw her deleting messages. I was coming out of the bathroom and she was in the bedroom sitting on the edge of the bed with her phone tilted toward her lap. She didn't notice me at first. I saw her tap, swipe, tap again, then pause. Her thumb hovered, then she hit delete and locked the screen. When she looked up and saw me, she smiled. Just clearing out junk mail. My inbox is a disaster. I nodded, pretending I believed her. But I didn't. Not really. Not then. And definitely not now. That evening, after Drew's casual comment had reawakened every doubt I'd buried, I sat at the dining table, staring at the 2 cups she'd left in the sink that morning. One was hers, pink ceramic with a small chip on the rim. The other, I didn't recognize. It was a disposable cup, some boutique coffee brand I didn't buy. It smelled like raspberry. Chloe always hated raspberry. Said it reminded her of medicine from childhood. So who was that for? I thought back to that morning. She'd left early. Earlier than usual. No note. Just a text that sounded like a formality. The coffee cup, the missed calls, the silent phone, the mystery meetings, it was all there. Pieces scattered on the table, just waiting for me to notice. The truth is, I think deep down, some part of me had known for a while. But it's easier to pretend things are fine than to admit your whole life might be a lie. You tell yourself love is enough. That the silence means peace, not distance. That she's just busy, not distracted. You ignore the tension in her shoulders, the way she avoids your gaze when she walks in the door, the way she smiles more at her phone than at you. But eventually, denial stops being comfort and starts being cowardice. And I wasn't ready to be a coward anymore. I spent that night in a kind of restless haze, not quite anger, not quite heartbreak. Just questions. Too many of them, all pulling at me in different directions. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling while Chloe slept next to me, perfectly still. Breathing slow. Peaceful, like nothing in the world was out of place. I wanted to believe that. God, I wanted to believe I was overreacting. That I was letting paranoia drive a wedge between us. But something inside me had shifted. Once you start to question one truth, the rest start falling like dominoes. That next morning, I did something I never thought I'd do. I reached out to Mason. Mason and I go way back, old college roommate, current security guard at the Valley Crest Inn. We'd lost touch a bit, but he still owed me a favor or two. I wasn't even sure what I was asking him for, not exactly. I didn't want to become one of those guys, creeping through his wife's life, hunting for proof. But then again, part of me already knew. I just needed confirmation. Closure. Something I could look at and stop wondering. I kept it vague. Hey man, I texted, quick question. Do you happen to have access to the lobby cams at Valley Crest? Just curious about something. He responded a few minutes later. Yeah, why? I took a deep breath, stared at the blinking cursor, then typed, think my wife might have been there 2 days ago. Said she had dinner downtown, but someone saw her at the inn. Any chance you could check the tapes around 6 to 9 p.m.? He didn't reply right away and I almost regretted sending it. But an hour later I got a video file. No context. No explanation. Just a message that read, you sure you want to see this? I stared at that line for a long time before tapping play. The clip was short. Maybe 30 seconds. *T from a wide-angle hallway camera that faced the main elevator bank. In the video, the doors opened and Chloe stepped inside. She was wearing a navy blazer and a pair of heels I didn't recognize. Her hair was tied back, loose curls falling around her shoulders. And she wasn't alone. The man with her wore a blue tailored suit, tall, confident. His hand was on the small of her back as they stepped inside the elevator. And Chloe, my wife, smiled at him. Not a polite, passing smile. No, it was soft. Familiar. The kind of smile you give someone who's seen you at your most unfiltered. But what hit me the hardest wasn't the smile. It was the touch. As the elevator doors began to close, her hand moved to his shoulder. Just a light touch. But she let it linger. Her fingers stayed there, resting with a kind of ease that shattered whatever illusion I had left. It was an asterisk, mate. It was quiet. But it said everything. I paused the video and sat there in silence. I must have watched that same clip 10 times. Looking for some other explanation. trying to convince myself maybe it wasn't her. Maybe I was projecting. Maybe it was a business meeting gone late. A work contact. A harmless ride in an elevator. But no matter how I sliced it, I knew the truth. Because I recognized that man. It was Adam. Adam, our neighbor. The guy who lived 3 doors down. The one who helped us install the deck lights last summer. The one Chloe always called hilarious whenever we ran into him during our morning walks. The guy she said made the best grilled shrimp she'd ever tasted. We'd gone on group hikes together. Barbecues. 4th of July parties. He'd been in our living room. And now he was in a hotel elevator with my wife. I can't even describe the cocktail of emotions that surged through me. Shock, betrayal, disbelief, it all hit at once. My heart was pounding, not from rage, but from something slower. Deeper. Like the cold realization that everything you thought was real, wasn't. The video didn't show what happened next. I didn't need it to. The way she looked at him was enough. I stared at my phone, Mason's text still sitting there, unread. I didn't reply. What could I say? Thanks for confirming that the last 9 years of my life might be a lie? Instead, I closed the app, set the phone on the table, and sat there for what felt like hours. The world outside kept moving. Kids played across the street. A neighbor mowed his lawn. Someone walked past with a stroller. All of it so normal. And I sat there, frozen in a moment I hadn't asked for. That evening, Chloe came home just after 7 o'clock. She walked in with a paper bag from that Thai place she likes. Set it on the counter. Smiled at me. Hey, she said casually. Got you the ginger tofu you like. Hope I didn't miss dinner. I looked at her, the same woman I had shared 1,000 dinners with, and suddenly she felt like a stranger. Her voice sounded like a voice I knew, same tone, same rhythm, but now it felt like someone else had borrowed it. She walked past me, completely unaware that the whole foundation had already cracked beneath our feet. I didn't confront her. Not that night. Because I needed to see more. I needed to feel the weight of it. I needed to be absolutely sure, not just for me, but for the part of me that still wanted to believe in us. But deep down, I think I already knew. I'd seen it. In the hallway. In the touch. In the smile. It was already over. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I lay on the couch with the TV on mute, the remote untouched, the images on the screen just blurry movements in the dark. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Chloe's hand on Adam's shoulder. That casual, familiar touch. And every time I opened them again, it was like waking up to a new version of my life I never signed up for. I kept replaying everything. The late nights. The deleted messages. The raspberry latte. It wasn't just about physical betrayal anymore. It was about how someone you trust with everything can look you in the eye every single day and lie so effortlessly. And the worst part? She still hadn't said a word. Nothing out of the ordinary. Nothing to suggest even a flicker of guilt. That hurt more than the elevator video. That she could sit across from me, laugh at something on TV, ask if I wanted to try that new breakfast place downtown, all while carrying this secret like it was nothing. The next evening I made a decision. I wanted to see it for myself. No more texts. No more videos. No more secondhand truths. I needed something undeniable, something that would leave no room for doubt, no more what-ifs. I waited until after sunset. Chloe had texted me around 5:30, short and sweet. Dinner again. Same client. Don't wait up. Love you. I stared at the message for a long time. The heart at the end felt like an insult. Like putting a bow on a loaded P*N. By 6:45 I was in my car, circling the valley crest and parking lot like a man who'd lost something or someone and couldn't quite admit it. I felt sick. My palms were sweaty. My heart beat hard and heavy in my chest. I wasn't sure what I would do if I actually saw her there. I had no plan. Just a growing knot in my stomach and a raspberry latte on the passenger seat, her favorite. She always said the place across from the inn made it just right. Not too sweet, not too tart, she'd once told me. I'd picked one up before getting there without even thinking about it. Habit, I guess. I parked a few spots down from her car. Same plates. Same rear window sticker from her old yoga studio. I felt a strange sense of validation seeing it. Like the final pin on a map. She was here. I wasn't crazy. I walked in through the side entrance. The front desk was empty, which helped. I knew from Mason's video which elevator they'd used, the one near the lounge. I didn't even check the directory or ask the front desk. I didn't need to. Some part of me already knew where to go. 7th floor. I stepped out into the hallway, carpeted in beige, the air perfumed with the scent of distant air fresheners and something floral. I didn't pause. I didn't second guess. I walked slowly, one foot in front of the other, raspberry latte in hand, until I reached room 721. I knocked. Soft at first. Then again, louder. The door opened. And there she was. She was wearing the black sweater I'd given her for our anniversary last year. Her hair was tied back in a loose ponytail. Her eyes widened the second she saw me. Behind her, the room was dim. Warm lighting. A jacket tossed across the arm of the couch. The familiar sound of low conversation. And then he appeared. Adam. Barefoot. Shirt halfway unbuttoned. He stepped into view, froze, and then quickly looked away. The entire moment couldn't have lasted more than 10 seconds. But it felt like slow motion. Chloe's eyes locked onto mine. She didn't say a word. Her mouth opened slightly like she was about to, but nothing came out. I didn't speak either. I just stepped forward, walked in, and placed the raspberry latte on the nightstand, right next to her purse. No drama. No accusations. No yelling. Just the quiet of disappointment settling between us like dust. Then I turned and left. As I walked down the hallway, I could feel the silence pressing in around me. I half expected her to follow. To chase me. To explain. But the door never opened behind me. The hallway remained quiet, and I realized with a strange kind of finality that I had just walked out of a version of my life that no longer existed. Back in the car, I sat for a long time. The latte was still warm in my hand, the second one I'd picked up in a panic, not knowing why. I stared at it like it was a symbol of something that used to make her happy, something I once understood. Yeah? It felt like a joke. When I got home, the house felt colder than usual. Empty even with the lights on. I sat on the edge of our bed, staring at the floor, still wearing the same clothes from earlier. Hazel came and laid her head on my knee. I don't know how dogs know when something's broken, but she did. She didn't ask for a walk. She didn't bark. She just stayed close. I reached for my phone, half expecting some sort of message. But there was nothing. No apology. No excuse. No explanation. Just silence. I didn't know what was worse, the betrayal or how easy it had been for her to live with it. She came the next morning. I was in the kitchen, making coffee I didn't even want, just trying to do something with my hands. The silence in the house had a different tone now, heavier. Like it knew what had happened. Like it was waiting for the conversation I didn't want to have. The front door opened quietly like she was trying not to be heard. I didn't move. I just listened. Her footsteps were soft, almost unsure. When she appeared in the doorway, I saw a version of Chloe I hadn't seen in years. No rings. No makeup. No heels. Just a hoodie, gray and oversized, probably mine. Her hair was tied up carelessly and her face was pale like she hadn't slept. We locked eyes for a second. She looked like she was bracing for impact. I didn't say anything. I didn't offer her coffee. I didn't ask how she slept or where she'd been. She sat down at the kitchen table, arms folded, eyes cast down. And then she said it. Quietly. Honestly. It wasn't just Adam. My chest tightened. There was someone else before him, she continued. Cole. Last fall. A client. Real one that time. She laughed, a humorless, fragile sound, then buried her face in her hands. I didn't mean for any of it to happen, she said, her voice shaking. That's not an excuse. I'm not here for sympathy. I needed to say it. Out loud. To you. I still hadn't said a word. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed, trying to feel something. Anything. She looked up at me, and for a moment I saw the Chloe I used to know. Or maybe the version of her I had built in my head. I felt like you weren't with me anymore, she said. Like you were here, in the house, doing all the things you always did, but your heart wasn't in it. I blinked. My heart wasn't in it? I'm not blaming you, she said quickly. I'm just trying to explain. You've always been solid, Ethan. You keep things running. You handle the money. You fix the gutters. You make dinner. You check on my mom even when I forget. But somewhere along the way it felt like we stopped being us. Like I was living with a really good roommate. I let the words hang in the air. You could have told me that, I finally said. Before everything. You could have said something. I tried, she said. You didn't hear it. I wanted to argue. To pull up 1,000 examples of things I did for her, things I sacrificed. But what would that prove now? Love isn't a scoreboard. And even if it were, betrayal would have wiped out all the points. I was scared to say the words out loud, she added. Because once you name something, it becomes real. So I just kept pretending everything was fine. She stared at the table, blinking fast. Her voice cracked when she said the next part. And then. I wanted you to find out. I felt the air leave my lungs. She looked up at me, tear-streaked and exposed. I know how messed up that sounds. But I couldn't end it. I didn't have the guts to blow it up, so I left the match out and waited for you to light it. I looked at her, this woman I had shared a life with, built a future with, and I didn't know who she was anymore. You wanted me to find out? I repeated, the bitterness leaking out of me without permission. You needed it to end so badly that you staged it like a trap? She didn't deny it. I didn't know how else to leave. For a moment, neither of us said anything. The clock ticked behind her. Hazel let out a quiet whine near the back door. A truck rolled past the house. So you never planned to stay? I asked. You were just waiting for the fallout? I don't know, she whispered. Part of me still loved you. Still does. But not in the way that makes a life together work. It's like I was holding on to the idea of us. Not the reality. I felt something inside me fracture. A quiet, tired kind of heartbreak, not explosive, not loud. Just resignation. Like finally seeing clearly for the first time in a dark room and realizing the furniture isn't where you left it. You could have told me the truth before all of this, I said, more to myself than her. I deserved that much. You did, she said, eyes red, voice small. I know. She stood slowly, as if waiting for permission to leave. I didn't give it. I didn't say anything. She walked to the door, pausing with her hand on the knob. I'm sorry, Ethan, she said without turning around. For all of it. Then she left. No slammed door. No final word. Just quiet footsteps fading down the front porch. A few days passed in that strange post-confession haze. Chloe stopped coming home. No messages. No calls. Just silence, the kind that feels like closure if you squint hard enough. I should have felt relieved, maybe even free, but instead I just felt numb. Like I was living in a house someone else had decorated for a life I no longer wanted. Then came the bank notification. At first, I thought it was a glitch. Our savings account, the one we built over years, paycheck by paycheck, had dipped below a threshold I'd set for emergencies. I logged in, scrolled through the transactions, and felt my chest go tight. Small withdrawals. Repeated. Over weeks. Sometimes at night. Sometimes on weekends. She claimed she was at yoga. The amounts weren't enough to raise flags individually. But added up, she'd siphoned out nearly 80% of our joint savings. I sat back in my chair, stunned. She hadn't just betrayed me emotionally. She'd been draining the foundation under my feet. But it didn't stop there. In the mail the next day, I got a welcome packet from a firm I'd never heard of, Wayland & Company. A consulting outfit. At first, I thought it was junk mail. But inside was a signed contract. My name. My signature. My supposed agreement to consult on strategic branding. It wasn't mine. It was forged. And guess who the co-signers were? Chloe. And Adam. That's when I called a lawyer, Brooke Carter. Sharp eyes, sharper words. Within minutes of hearing my story and reviewing the documents, she leaned back in her chair and said, "This isn't just infidelity, Ethan. This is fraud. You've got a case." And for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel powerless. I felt ready. Brooke moved fast. She helped me gather everything, bank statements, *TS, copies of the forged contract. I met with Naomi, Adam's wife, who, it turned out, had her own stack of receipts. She'd suspected something, too. Between the two of us, we pieced together a timeline that stretched farther back than either of us wanted to admit. Chloe and Adam hadn't just been cheating. They had been building something together, a company, a life, behind our backs, using us as springboards. In court, it all came out. Chloe tried to play innocent. Adam claimed ignorance. But the documents didn't lie. The fake deals, the forged contracts, the transfers, the trips. They painted a picture even they couldn't explain away. The judge ruled decisively. I kept the house. I got control of what was left of our savings. Chloe? She got the debt. The penalties. The wreckage she'd made. As she walked past me in the hallway outside the courtroom, she slowed. Her voice was barely a whisper. I lost you. I didn't flinch. No, I said. You spent me. And that was it. No rage. No last-minute plea. Just the quiet closing of a door I'd already walked through. I drove home that afternoon with the windows down. The house felt different now. Lighter. Quieter in a good way. I poured myself a cup of coffee, sat on the porch with Hazel at my feet, and watched the tide come in. It wasn't the life I planned, but it was finally mine again.